What's up, guys? This is Ryan V from PokerVIP.com, and right now what we're doing is playing 4 tables of 50-cent $1 no-limit hold'em cash games on America's Card Room. And the point of this video is to give you guys sort of like a high-stakes sort of poker expert's perspective on the game, how it works, especially the 6-max games, and like how an elite player really approaches the game. So first, a little bit about me. I started playing poker 9 years ago with $300. I deposited that money on a poker site and just sort of grinded really hard for a really long time and made my way up the limits. Let's see, I think we're going to 3 bets. Made my way up the limits and have since played 500 1K and 300 600, the biggest games that run online. And I'm also a regular in the $100,000 buy-in live tournament scene. So, you can feel pretty good that you're getting pretty good information. I'm going to do my best to, sort of give insights into my head, my thought process about, how to play. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to play 4 tables. We're going to sort of cycle through hands kind of quickly. Hopefully we'll get to play some cool hands. And then in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to break everything down. We're going to show you piece by piece how, why I made my decisions, how I think about the spot, where, I think maybe some spots are misunderstood or I often see them misapplied or misplayed. So we'll go through all that. But for now in this video, we're just gonna, try to play some cool hands, just sort of see what happens and create some cool fodder for our next video. So, okay, this is kind of an interesting hand. So real quick, the green note is as a fishy player, more speculative player. The yellow note is a regular grinder of some sort. And the orange note, which, okay, we have 2 orange notes on the bottom table, one up here. The orange note is up. Okay. All right, we would normally call this flop, but given how much money's going in, and I just don't think, yeah, man, it's a tough spot. I just think we have to let this go, given the stack sizes and everything. If it was more normal pre-flop bet size, normal post-flop bet size, 5-4 would definitely be a call. But me and Kids, who's again a speculative sort of loose player who's not sort of a regular. Okay, we're gonna get to see it. Oh, got him. Just decided to get in there. Unfortunately, we don't get to see what Billion had. I'm gonna guess a queen, probably ace queen. But yeah, normal circuit test, normal bet sizes. 5-4, we would call the flop, and I'll go. We can go into that hand more in the next video, but yeah, when the things got extreme, I think it's better to probably just let it go. If you can see up here in the top right corner, this is it says low jack up here. What this is my pre-flop raise first in range from that position. So if the action's folded to me, or just I dealt 2 cards out of the gun. If I have one of the hands in red, I'm gonna raise. If I have one of the hands in purple, I'm gonna fold. So we have one for sort of all the 6-max positions. You can actually download these free on my blog at upswingpoker.com. It's a blog that me and Doug Polk, who is another elite, he's actually just the best hold'em player in the world right now, have created, and we have tons of free and paid content on there. Some of it's really cool. You guys should definitely check it out. You can get these free pre-flop charts that essentially govern your race first in decision making for you. On there, I think these are hugely important. When Doug and I started using them, they really helped our game. They really improved sort of they improved our ability to think about the game, especially in 6-max when there's a lot going on, a lot of different things can happen. It's really important to nail down pre-flop. Because in our opinion, pre-flop is the most important street, and we sort of pride ourselves in playing pre-flop really well and really working on it because it's really difficult. There's so much that can sort of happen. The river's easy. The river, that's it. Like, you got it or you don't. But the pre-flop, sort of anything could happen. So we pride ourselves in working really hard and building a good strategy for that. So yeah, you can just grab these ranges for free on our blog, Upswing Poker. And then, if you can poke around, we have a lot of different blog posts, a lot of cool stuff on there. We talk about strategy, psychology, sort of the goings on, sort of like what we're up to and how, what we're doing in poker and stuff. And yeah, you can check it out and get to know us. And then If you want, so we have these ranges. You can download them for free. They're great. They they totally work. And then we also have a lab, which is our it's our A to Z course or system, whatever you want to call it. We just basically thought that there was never something that in plain English explained exactly what you should be doing at the poker table, how you should be playing and approaching things and thinking about the game. So we went out and we created it, and it's a practical strategy that you guys can implement. And part of it is these hand matrices, these hand sort of squares here that break all the stuff down, and that's a big part of what we do. And these are the ranges you're looking at here, are ripped right out of the lab. They're things that we use in everyday. Okay. This guy's been raising. All right, we just got to gamble here. He's just been playing so loose and aggressive. I don't think he's gonna fold. He can go pretty big. We're just gonna get this in here. I'll talk about more why we're doing that in the next video. All right, good flop for us. So good, in fact, and I think that me and kids is so wily that we're gonna give him the old checkarooski and see if we can make him believe that we have kings or jacks or maybe a queen, something like that. I honestly think if we check again, he might still bluff the river, and I mean he only has it's $40. We could just shove all in on the river, and if he has anything, he might call. But I think the way the action's played out, I think he's just gonna fold. But I definitely think we got to check the flop here and just hope that he's just messing around. But I think when he checks the turn, he just always has nothing, and we're just winning that pot basically 100% of the time, or close to it, at least 90. So these are the range you're looking at here in the top right this is how the big blind plays versus the cutoff. Hands in red are raises, hands in greens are calls, hands in purple are folds. This is a polarized range, so raising good and bad hands. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next video. Here's how we would play on the button versus a cutoff raise, the button versus a small blind 3-bet. We've raised first in on the button, the small blind 3 does, and so on and so forth. And we have a bunch of these ranges. They're really important. Even I would highly recommend you guys just check them out, just to see. I mean, you don't have to use them regularly. You don't have to make your own. I think if you just look at them, I would recommend you do all that stuff. But I think if you were just to download them or just look at them in this video, whatever you want to do, and really think about them, I think that you would immediately. I think that's like one of the easiest, quickest ways to get just some quick improvement to your game. Once you start thinking about, all right, this position, this is what you're looking at here is 169 hands. This is every hand that's possible to be dealt pre-flop and hold'em. This is the foundation. This is the fundamentals of the game. What hands do I play from what position? What hands rank higher, than others? For instance, we're playing King 9 suited here in under the gun to low jack, and we're not playing King Jack offsuit. And I think that really says something about the value of suited hands. So yeah, definitely check it out. Definitely sort of just either make your what am I gonna do here? We're gonna check this. Make your own, play with ours. I think they're really helpful. I think they really help. We use them in our everyday, sort of our everyday way that we play the game. Ace 9, the flop check. I actually have a lot to say about the flop. We'll definitely go into it. It's interesting because it's multi-way, and betting is definitely a viable option. We decided to check on the turn. We're just going to fold. We would call some ace highs. We would probably call ace high if... Ooh, this is interesting. We're going to check call this. We would call ace high if we had like ace jack, ace king, something with 2 overcards, but I think maybe ace 9. We can't improve to beat the 10, so I think we maybe just have to fold the turn. Okay. King 10, I think checking the flop's probably the way to go. And then we're gonna bluff the turn. And this board is a very interesting board. There's a lot going on here because of how many made hands players can have. I think that it's sort of mandatory to check there, and I think that checking that bet's a really good line to bluff. And I'll talk about why a little bit more in the next video. So here's 6s, raise under the gun, button calls. We call the big blind. Checks to our wild and crazy mean kids who somehow doubled his stack. I think I missed how that happened. Who he bets the flop, the turn check, and then he checks, and then he bets the river. Now here's the problem with this: is that I think he would bluff here, and I also think that he would check a lot of good hands on the turn. Something about the recreational players, they just don't really like betting the turn. They like checking. So it makes he's sort of repping a king or like maybe a checked queen, but yeah, like otherwise if he's bluffing, he needs to have exactly sort of like Jack 10 or 10-8 or 10-9 or something. You know, maybe like a weird ace high. I'm not. I mean, the thing is, well, it's kind of a tough spot. We could call here sometimes. I just tend to think that, you know, we could maybe even get owned by a 7 or something. I tend to think that we have to fold there, but even though his line is sort of uncredible, for like most people, because he's sort of only repping like basically a king, I actually think that he would actually not value bet hands that maybe he should on the turn, so that makes his river range a little bit stronger. So I think that actually hero folding there is a reasonable play. Ace-5 suited, strong enough to call pre-flop. I'll talk about why in the next video. It's mostly got to do with the button. We're probably playing this hand either way, and you know there's something funny that happens specifically on the button in the big blind about pre-flop. I'll talk about that, you know, sort of in more depth in the next video. But I think our hand's sort of forced here. We could re-raise, but I think maybe calling with specifically this ace, which is a pretty powerful small suited ace, is the best play. Tens, we're gonna have to just get this in. Ace-5, nut flush draw. Definitely want to call here. Ooh, okay, getting interesting. Calling the flop is definitely the best play. You could raise, but that's not the best play. Calling is definitely a better play, and okay, we'll see what happens here. But I'll talk about the flop more in the next video. And that's actually a very common mistake that I see a lot of players make. So I'm glad that happened in this video. We'll definitely flesh it out a little bit more and explain sort of what's going on later streets. So we get check raised, we call, which is, I mean, this is definitely kind of a funky hand. Let's see, Jack 7, we're just going to go for the raise pre-flop. We obviously have to fold down, we just don't have the pot odds to call, but I get check raised by the pre-flop raiser. I wonder, that's an interesting play. I don't know. I really don't know what he had. Maybe he was trying to check raise to see where he's at with the jack. One thing I will say is that definitely a lot of the players in the regulars in these games, their like fundamentals and mechanics are not great. I see them make a lot of hands where I look at the showdown and I don't know. I can't even really articulate. Like, you know, sometimes people do things and I'll say like, oh, like, you know, I see what you're doing here, but I don't think it's the best play. But that I just straight don't understand. Jack 7 out of the big blind. So again, the green note speculative players, they're not going to play great. When they're limping, they obviously don't have a strong hand, and in general, they're not going to play great. So when the small blind limps, I actually don't mind raising there. You know, we're going to play a bigger pot, but it is going to be out of position, which isn't great. But I think that our play advantage, you know, just our skill advantage on that player, will make up for that, and we get the small blind just out of there. Like, I don't think the small blind is ever calling that 4x raise. I think if he had a hand that could call that, I think probably he would have just raised it pretty. Maybe a couple hands, but I think enough to where him folding ends up making that make sense for us. So Jack 9 is pretty interesting. I think this is a good flop to bet with this hand. You know, I think if there's a lot of turns we could bet, we're gonna look for some hands that would be willing to bluff the flop. And I think this is one of them. And you know what, this is funny. I think we're gonna have to. Yeah, I think we just sort of have to bet the turn. Yeah, I think this is a good enough hand to bet the flop with because it's sort of low on our range. We can make a good hand and value bet, and then we can turn, you know, we can turn a straight draw or something like that. All right, and you know, now we're just gonna go for it. It's a little bit less likely he has spades in his hand. I think he has a lot of 7s and 5s are in a tough spot. I'll have a couple 4s, but we could have a number of big hands to bet the flop, and I think we're okay to just fire off on this run. And I think that you know, we could potentially have a lot of bluffs, but if we're good about controlling them, we actually will be okay to bet there. We need to have bluffs, and yeah, I think that was a good hand to do it with. I'll talk down. In the next video, I'm going to explain sort of. I think. Oh, I didn't do it. I mean, obviously, you know, this is sort of the part where we're just playing, we're just zipping through hands, but I'll do a better job really explaining this board, what it means for us, and our range, his range, and then why I selected that hand and why I chose to bet it 3 times. Okay, cool. So Baba, I played a decent amount with Baba because I've been recording a couple of videos. We don't get to play this hand, but Baba's a live one. Baba likes to speculate, as we say, and it's fun. It's definitely he's fun to play with. You know, he'll definitely get in there. He's willing to gamble, which I really like. Those I think those make really good games. 9-8 suited. This is actually probably a little bit too loose, but you know what? We're making a video. We're having a good time. We're almost done here. We're gonna, you know, I'm gonna pause this in and then I'm gonna go to recording the sort of explanation video. So we're gonna, whatever. We'll get in there and gamble a little bit, or maybe lose just a tiny bit of money. All right, we're gonna make this king queen. We're obviously gonna get out of there with 9-8. So we're gonna make this king queen the last hand. So button opens, 3-bet the small blind. If we go to here real quick, we're gonna go to this range here. We just 3-bet our whole range in the small blind versus the button open, and that'll be, we'll talk about that in the next video. That's actually really important, of why we do that and sort of how we do that. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video and explaining sort of what's going on, and yeah, check out our blog, upswingpoker.com, and definitely go through pokervip.com. There's a ton of great free content in both, and I think it can really help your games. I'll see you guys soon.